Here are the top 10 highest grossing video games of all time. You're probably expecting GTA, Minecraft, Call of Duty, games like that, but I think this list might surprise you. Some of these games you probably haven't even heard of, from arcade legends that defined the 1980s, to mobile hits that dominate Asia, to modern online giants. These games show just how massive the gaming industry has become, and some of the numbers are just mind-blowing. Crossfire is a tactical first-person shooter developed by South Korean studio Smilegate, first released in 2007. If you've never played it, imagine a streamlined version of Counter-Strike, simple mechanics, fast-paced rounds, and a heavy focus on team firefights. The game became a cultural phenomenon across Asia, especially in China and South Korea, where PC cafes helped fuel its rise into one of the most played online shooters of its era. Crossfire at its peak recorded over 650 million registered users and has generated $13.1 billion in lifetime revenue. To put that number into perspective, Grand Theft Auto 5 has earned around $8.5 billion to date, despite being one of the most successful games of all time, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare brought in an estimated $3 billion during its peak cycle. Crossfire quietly outpaced them both, despite its relative obscurity outside of Asia. Its financial success came from a free-to-play model that was still new to much of the industry at the time. Instead of charging up front, Smilegate focused on microtransactions for weapon skins, character upgrades and cosmetic items. This made the game accessible to anyone while creating a constant stream of recurring revenue. In markets like China, it quickly became the go-to shooter for millions of players, free to log in but tempting enough to keep them spending. League of Legends, developed by Riot Games and released in 2009, is the game that defined the MOBA genre. It became a global staple almost instantly, mixing easy-to-learn controls with incredibly deep competitive strategy. Other MOBAs have risen and faded, but for more than a decade, League has held on to the crown. Financially, League of Legends has generated an estimated $15.3 billion in lifetime revenue. Unlike traditional single-purchase titles, its financial success is built entirely on its free-to-play model, with revenue driven through cosmetic skins, battle passes and other optional purchases. To put that figure into perspective, $15 billion is nearly double the lifetime box office revenue of the entire Lord of the Rings film trilogy. For a game that doesn't even charge a penny for players to download, the numbers are clearly insane. League's success isn't just about people playing the game, it's also about people watching it. Riot built one of the biggest esports ecosystems in the world, turning League of Legends into a spectator sport watched by millions of people. The 2018 World Championship final alone drew nearly 100 million unique viewers, on par with the Super Bowl. That kind of audience keeps League in the cultural spotlight and feeds directly back into the game, driving its steady revenue growth. Today, League of Legends remains a powerhouse, with more than 150 champions, constant updates, and one of the most developed esports scenes in the world. It still draws in millions of players every day. 15 years later, and it's still setting the standard for what an online game can be. Lineage, developed by NCSoft and launched in 1998, is a massively multiplayer online role-playing game that became a cornerstone of South Korea's gaming industry. While it never achieved mainstream popularity in the West, in its home country Lineage was nothing short of a cultural phenomenon. Over its lifetime, Lineage has generated around $16.9 billion in revenue. To put that into perspective, that's nearly on par with PUBG at $17.8 billion, which funnily enough may or may not be next on the list. Spoiler alert, it is. It is next on the list. What set Lineage apart was how it made its money. It was one of the first MMORPGs to mix subscriptions with microtransactions, letting players spend on items, equipment, and even in-game advantages. By the mid-2000s, NCSoft had perfected a system that kept players playing long after they'd logged in for free. It worked so well in Korea that it became the blueprint for the free-to-play model we see everywhere today. Even today, Lineage remains active, particularly for its mobile spin-offs like Lineage M and Lineage 2M, which continue to generate significant revenue in Asian markets. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, better known as PUBG, was released in 2017 by PUBG Corporation, a subsidiary of Krafton. It's the game that took the Battle Royale concept from a niche experiment to a global phenomenon, directly inspiring the rise of Fortnite and countless imitators. The The premise is simple: 100 players drop into a shrinking map and only one survives. That formula not only revolutionised online multiplayer, but also redefined what gamers expected from competitive shooters. Since launch, PUBG has generated an estimated $17.8 billion in revenue. That's more than the combined lifetime earnings of Minecraft and Overwatch, despite both being household names with massive global recognition. Much of PUBG's financial success comes from its dual presence: a premium PC and console version alongside PUBG Mobile, which dominates markets in India, China and Southeast Asia. In fact, PUBG Mobile alone accounts for the majority of that revenue, with Tencent's publishing muscle helping it reach billions in microtransaction sales. One of PUBG's most striking achievements is its player count. Within its first year, it hit over 3 million concurrent players on Steam, breaking records at the time and briefly making it the most played game in the platform's history. Its mobile edition has seen over 1 billion downloads, making it one of the most widely played titles in the world. Today, PUBG may not command the same headlines that it did during its explosive launch, but it remains a revenue giant, having generated more than $17.8 billion across platforms. PUBG Mobile consistently ranks among the world's top grossing mobile titles, while the PC and console versions still maintain a loyal player base. Most importantly, PUBG's influence on modern gaming is undeniable. While Battle Royale concepts existed before, it was PUBG that transformed the mode into a global phenomenon, paving the way for Fortnite, Warzone and countless others. Honor of Kings, developed by Tencent's Teamy Studio and released in 2015, is a multiplayer online battle arena that has been described as China's League of Legends. Designed primarily for mobile, it quickly became a cultural staple in China, blending competitive strategy with fast-paced, accessible gameplay. Unlike its Western counterpart, League of Legends, which thrives on PC, Honor of Kings was built for smartphones, a critical factor in its explosive success across Asia. Financially, Honor of Kings has generated roughly $18.7 billion in lifetime revenue. What's even more striking is the consistency of its earnings. For years, Honor of Kings has ranked as the top grossing mobile game worldwide, often pulling in over $1 billion annually just from microtransactions like skins, characters, seasonal passes, the usual. The game once reported over 100 million daily active users, most of them in China, though its international version, Arena of Valor, has also found audiences in Southeast Asia, Europe and North America. While it never matched the cultural dominance of League of Legends globally, its success on mobile makes it one of the most financially successful games ever created. Today, Honor of Kings is still a dominant force. Tencent continues to expand its reach with esports tournaments, cross-media projects, and international push through Arena of Valor. Epic Games launched Fortnite in 2017. It started as a cooperative survival game, but everything changed when it added the free-to-play Battle Royale mode. Almost overnight, Fortnite wasn't just a hit game, it became a global cultural phenomenon. It turned into a social space as much as a shooter, where players could compete, build and even attend virtual concerts. Since its release, Fortnite has earned around $20 billion in revenue. That figure actually tops the entire lifetime earnings of the Legend of Zelda franchise, despite Zelda being one of gaming's most iconic names. What makes Fortnite's success remarkable is that it's free to play. Players don't pay to win, they spend money on cosmetic skins, emotes and seasonal battle passes. Epic keeps the momentum going with constant updates, new content and huge crossover events with brands like Marvel and Star Wars. It's a model that's made Fortnite one of the most profitable live service games ever. During its peak in 2018 and 2019, Fortnite had more than 250 million registered players. Even today, it's still huge with around 80 million people logging in each month. Beyond the gameplay, it's been one of the first games to push the idea of a gaming metaverse, not just a place to compete, but a space where entertainment, commerce and social interaction all mix together. Released in 1991 by Capcom, Street Fighter II is widely credited with revolutionising the fighting game genre. It didn't just popularise competitive arcade play, it turned gaming arcades into social battlegrounds, where players tested their reflexes, mastery of combos and nerves against both friends and strangers. Financially, Street Fighter II has generated an estimated $22 billion in revenue when adjusted for inflation, making it one of the most profitable games in history. Most of that didn't come from game sales, it came from coins. Each player costed $1, and across millions of players and thousands of arcades worldwide, those coins added up very fast. This revenue is nearly 3 times what the entire Super Smash Bros. Series has earned, even though Smash is considered the modern face of fighting games. Back in the day, arcades around the world were packed with people lining up to play. The game sold over 200,000 arcade units, and in the US alone, it's estimated that players pumped more than $1.5 billion of quarters into Street Fighter II machines within its first few years. The home console ports to the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis further expanded its reach, turning it into a household name. Released in 2005 by South Korean developer Nepal, Dungeon Fighter Online is one of the most profitable games you've probably never played. It's a 2D side-scrolling beat-em-up mixed with MMO elements, where players choose from character classes, dive into dungeons and grind for loot, all wrapped up in a free-to-play model with microtransactions. Most of its audience has come from South Korea and China, where it became a cultural juggernaut. In fact, it's one of the highest grossing video games ever made, generating roughly $22 billion in lifetime revenue. Same as Street Fighter 2. DFO had more than 600 million registered users at one point, a figure that makes most Western franchises look tiny in comparison. Its success came from a simple but powerful model. Free to play, but with endless opportunities to spend on cosmetics, upgrades, seasonal events, pretty much the same as what we see in most games these days. While its popularity in the West has always been limited, in its core markets, DFO has been a mainstay for nearly 2 decades. Even today, it continues to attract millions of active users, proving how powerful long-term retention and community-driven updates can be. It's not flashy by modern standards, but its financial success is proof that a strong regional audience and a well-designed monetization system can eclipse even the biggest global blockbusters. Launched in 1980 by Namco, Pac-Man is one of the most recognisable games ever created. While Space Invaders made arcades explode in popularity, Pac-Man cemented gaming as mainstream entertainment. It was colourful, approachable, and appealed to audiences far beyond just teenage boys, who were the core audience at arcades at the time. Financially, Pac-Man has generated an estimated $26 billion in lifetime revenue when adjusted for inflation. The majority of this money comes from the arcade cabinets, which spread across shopping malls, pizza parlours, and bowling alleys around the world. At its peak in the early 1980s, it's estimated that there were more than 400,000 Pac-Man cabinets in circulation worldwide, and players were collectively dropping millions of coins into them every single day. The game's popularity even gave birth to Pac-Man Fever, a Billboard charting song, and an entire wave of merchandise that turned the yellow character into a pop culture icon. Unlike most arcade games of its era, Pac-Man also had broad appeal across gender lines. Surveys from the time found that women were more likely to play Pac-Man than other arcade hits, making it one of the first truly universal games. While it obviously no longer dominates revenue charts, its impact is forever lasting. Pac-Man brand continues to sell through modern ports, mobile versions, nostalgia collections, and its cultural recognition remains one of the strongest in gaming. Very few video games have ever defined an era as completely as Pac-Man did in the early 1980s. Released in 1978 by Taito, Space Invaders is often described as the game that kickstarted the modern video game industry. It wasn't the very first arcade title, but it was the one that transformed video games into a global business. Rows of players hunched over arcade machines, blasting pixelated alien waves. This was the start of the explosion of gaming culture. When it comes to money, Space Invaders is just on another level. Over its lifetime, it earned more than $31 billion, the highest total for any video game in history. To put that into perspective, as I like to do, that's almost 3 times the entire box office of the original Star Wars trilogy. It's also more than the combined global earnings of the Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings film franchises. Think about that. One simple arcade shooter made in 1978 has generated more money than some of the biggest entertainment properties of all time. Just like Street Fighter, most of this income came not from game sales but from sheer arcade dominance. By the early 1980s, Space Invaders cabinets had spread across the world and players were pouring endless coins into the machines. Each session only lasted minutes, but the addictive loop of just one more try turned those coins into billions. The game's presence in arcades was unavoidable. By 1982, it had generated over $3.8 billion in quarters alone. It really set the stage for franchises like Pac-Man and Street Fighter 2 to dominate later decades. So those are the 10 highest grossing video games in history. What stands out is how diverse this list really is. From simple arcade games like Pac-Man, to modern live service giants like Fortnite, to regional powerhouses like Lineage and Crossfire. It proves there's no single formula for success in gaming. Some titles dominated because they defined an era, some because of clever monetization models, and others because they captured markets that really make Western headlines. The biggest takeaway is that video games aren't just entertainment anymore. They're one of the most profitable industries on earth, and honestly, without the success of these billion-dollar giants, we probably wouldn't even have the games that we cherish today. Without Space Invaders and Pac-Man, there might never have been a market for something as ambitious as Skyrim or Red Dead Redemption 2. These record breakers didn't just make money, they paved the way for the kinds of games that we get to enjoy today, so we have to be thankful for that. Now, as you may or may not know, and this is important by the way, I'm not very good at goodbyes, so...